today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about alimony and child maintenance, child support, and all sorts of different names, but spousal support, and just have a look at the authoritarian and very arbitrary methods and devices, and the arbitrary law and ideological application of law that's used to not only determine what the man should pay, but whatever legal recourse he has. Gradually over the years, the legal recourse that a man has, in divorce, to appeal divorce cases, to appeal assessments as to his capacity to pay alimony, that sort of thing, the legal avenues of appeal have been blocked off or made so expensive, or the waiting lists are so long that in effect the man has no legal standing. Now, this has been done purposefully and willfully pretty much all across the Western world. Some areas, jurisdictions are slightly more egregious than others, but it all amounts to the same thing. Now, I was recently reading an article about in Britain where once the public service bureaucracy that determines what the man should pay, once they decide on the amount, regardless of what information they have at hand, or once they decide on the amount, then the man cannot legally challenge this, or ask for a change, or say, hey, you think I've earned an income twice as high as I really did, and here's the evidence. There's no method of appeal that exists, and the assessments are being handed to very radicalized, all men are bad, the family's evil, white men are bad, all this sort of stuff. There have been these young, nearly all women, radicalized young women have come through gender studies courses and so on, and have been radicalized into believing that all men, and particularly white men, are all Hitler. That they sort of fantasize or engage in their fantasy twisted games of vengeance on making assessments that the man couldn't possibly pay. And they're allowed to do that because they're fighting back against Nazis. In fact, they're fighting Hitler. What a virtuous occupation that is. So now, if the man's unemployed for a certain number of years, then they may do a reassessment. But only if he forces that issue. If he lives on the street for long enough, then they may revisit it. But only because they just can't get any money out of him. He's got no fixed address. He's got no job where they can garnish wages or things like that. So they kind of accept, well, it's not working out. Let's try something different. Now, I've seen this firsthand on a number of occasions. I was VP of new products at this particular company, and so there are a lot of programmers and engineers and everything that were in the section I was looking after, and this issue of alimony and child support and spousal maintenance came up, and I lost quite a few very good people from it. These are very dedicated, hard-working programmers that would really commit to getting the project done, and they did good quality work and so on. You don't, if you're on tight deadlines to bring new products out, you can't afford to lose those sort of people. They're just too good, too productive, too reliable, and people you can depend on. And I'm thinking, just off the top of my head is one here. I'm thinking of a guy who he was very dependable. I could give him a job, to just know that he would do it. And so he came to me one day, and I was quite taken aback by this. He said, "Look, I'm going to have to leave. I can't stay here." And I thought, "Holy crap! Why not?" And I'm thinking, "We're treating you well. You paid quite well, but what's the problem?" And he'd been going through a divorce, which I thought was somewhat amicable, but he didn't talk about it that much. But he then said, "Look, this is the amount of money that the alimony and the child maintenance people want to take off me, and it's like for every dollar I make." After tax and social security, they want to take 90 cents of the dollar. It's impossible. I just can't live on the amount of money they want to take. Now, I sort of was somewhat disbelieving. I thought, well, no government department, nobody with even an ounce of sanity is going to do that to anybody. It just would be, it's counterproductive in every possible way, where you've got this disincentive, or creating this disincentive for the guy to even have a job, let alone keep the job, the well-paid job he's got. So so I didn't, he's a reliable guy, so I didn't dismiss out of hand. I thought, well, maybe he's misunderstood, or if I sit down with him and go through it. And I wanted to invest the time in it because he was such a good, productive and reliable, dependable employee. So I said, okay, well, let's sit down, let's go through it all. And he said, okay, all right then. So we did. And I think he was indulging me to some extent because he didn't want me to think ill of him, that he was just walking out the door for no reason. But he had all his stuff there, including recordings of telephone conversations he had with the alimony people. And it went something, I'm going from memory here because it's some years ago, but it went something like this. They wanted, and I'll use round numbers just to make it easy, but they wanted, like, say he makes $100 a year. They wanted about $30 a year in 2 children for the child support. They added in like an alimony component there, which bumped it up to like 40 or something, or 35, somewhere like that. But then they did a couple of really weird things. They just arbitrarily, there's no court hearing, by the way, no judge is deciding this. This is just a bureaucrat is deciding that they would put the date of separation, and they backdate it. They just arbitrarily, out of thin air, backdate it by 12 months and say, well, you owe 12 months of child support going back 12 months. They're backdating it by 12 months. But because it's backdated, they then can say, well, you haven't paid that amount, it's in arrears, so we can now fine you. Now, they just created the backdating 5 minutes ago, but they added in another $15 for, this is out of the notional, supposed $100 he makes, but added in another $15. So they've now got 35, plus 30 is now 65, plus the fines, so it's now 80. Then he can't afford for the kids to stay in a private school, but she his ex-wife just contacts the child support and says, well, I want to keep the kids in the private school, which I'm sure he did as well if he could have afforded it. I want to keep the kids in private school, so I want him to pay for it. So okay, that's fine. We don't need a judge or anything to decide. We don't need to discuss it with him. He does what we the fuck tell him to do. That fucking damn Nazi, and he's going to have to pay those school fees. So now he's up to like $91 out of the 100. He only gets paid 100, and they want $91 out of it. So now I was looking at this is insane. Nobody's going to go with this. And he said, well, my point exactly. So I said, have you tried talking to them? Have you explained this to them? And he'd done voice recordings. This was before mobile phones were proliferating, so it was off landlines. But there were mobile phones around, but not the sort of stuff you see today, or as widely used as you see today. So he's recording the conversations and their attitude, and you get some snot-nosed little shithead, little gender studies girly who comes back with comments like he says, look, I only make $100 and you want $91. How am I going to survive? How am I going to live? And then there's, I'm sure you'll find a way, but said in a very snotty tone. And they weren't they weren't interested in listening to him, listening to any of his his persuasive, factual arguments. And so he said, well, look, I can't do business with these guys. They're just ideological fanatics. I can't even talk to them. They're unprepared to listen. And they were clearly treating him as if he was, he was Hitler or something. Not even that. It's more that ideologically we hate you and we want to punish you. This is girly revenge for centuries of oppression or something. It was more that type of ideology than just you're Hitler or something. But anyway, he'd recorded this and he played me these recordings, and I was aghast. I thought, holy fuck, how would you allow people to deal with the public like that? So clearly the whole thing was, it's almost like the whole thing wasn't to look after children or make sure that, it wasn't that, it was to punish men and to transfer wealth from men to women. It was that was it. They had no other purpose. So he said, well, look, there's no point in me working. And look, at the end of it, when he'd gone through it, and he said, I agreed. Look, there is no point in you working. If that's how they're going to treat you, there is no point in you working. So he said, look, I'll just have, this is computer programming and stuff like that. So I'll just have to do jobs for cash. Be prepared to pay me cash. I'm going to go and live with my folks. The bedroom that I grew up in as a kid, and I'm going to live with my folks, and I'm just going to get unemployment benefits, or I'll do some bullshit courses because if you're attending school in some way, they give you, they do let you off for a little bit. So I'm just going to do some bullshit courses at some community college that cost almost nothing, and I'll just do those, and I'll just keep on doing that, and living with the folks and working for cash under the table, and that'll be it. So now at the end of this, everybody was a loser. His ex-wife tries to block him from seeing the children until he pays up. And yet another outrage that she can do arbitrarily with the full support of the government, by the way, full support of the government. So he can do that. She can do that rather. So he goes, okay, well, I've lost my relationship with the kids. That's gone. So the kids now have lost their father. She's not getting a penny now in maintenance or support. She wanted top dollar and pushed for it. Now she's getting nothing. His career is finished pretty much, and again, his quality of life is dipped. You couldn't imagine a bigger all-round disaster, all because they had ideological fanatics that were chasing him for the money. That's it. If you hadn't had that, if let's all sit around the table here, guys, and see what we can work out, because we'd like to get some money to the kids and everything. So we certainly want you to keep in contact with the children. That's important. No, Mrs. Billy Bob, you can't get greedy like this, because it'll achieve nothing. In the end, you'll only and find a solution. Find something that works. But instead of meeting in the middle and sitting around the table and talking about it, he was treated as the enemy that must be punished, that must be crushed, that must be brought to account, that fucking damn Nazi. And so nobody was actually looking for a solution. Nobody was looking for some sort of something that worked. But you have to notice here, and also be deeply concerned, that there was no legal avenue for him to appeal to. There is no court of law he can go to. Sure, there's a court of ideology called the family court. Sure, there's that. But the waiting list is 2 to 3 years, assuming they'd even hear the case or give a shit. So he's caught in this ideological vortex of men hating, and with no way out. So the only way out for him, and for anyone in that position, was simply just to drop out. Okay, I am now a non-participant. Now, this is something that these ideological fanatics struggle to understand, because they don't understand the idea of somebody bright, working hard, self-sacrifice, and that's how they make a life. They don't see the world that way, because they're in the public service, and they just see the entire world as something of patronage, cronyism. So they say, well, the only reason you've got a high income is because you got lots of buddies that are gifting you affirmative action type jobs. That's the only reason you have that money. So why don't you go to those buddies and get even more money? Just clap your hands and get a job that pays more money, because the only way anybody ever gets a well-paid job is through cronyism, patronage, and affirmative action. So these people are seeing they have no concept of working hard and creating wealth through ingenuity, and you studied hard at school, all that sort of stuff. They've got no concept of that world. And so they perceive as high income as just some white supremacy gig or something like that. So now, because of the area I was working in, you feel the pain instantly when you lose good quality people, hardworking, dependable, reliable, gifted, and you feel the pain immediately because they're not easy to replace. And once they're gone, you lose continuity on various projects. And it doesn't mean the deadlines that I had to meet as the departmental VP, doesn't mean they go away. They're still there. So, the CEO and the board, they don't give a shit that I've lost people. It's well, you have to find it's your job to find a solution here. So I lost, over the years, I lost a number of people through this exact same thing. They just came to me with the same thing. It's not worth my while working. Why the fuck would I work when I'm left with so little money? And there were guys saying, look, I'm left with so little money, I'll have to go in a 3-bedroom house and share the like the rent and everything. I'll never own another property. But because of that, the divorced people say I can't have the children overnight because they can't have their own bedroom. This sort of thing. So he loses contact with them, or he can only see them during the day for one day a month. That's it. That's now the contact with his children. So he looks at all of that and thinks, well, why the fuck should I subsidise such an insane, crazy, vengeful, bitter, twisted, ideological load of bullshit? I won't. I'll just drop out. So that's what these guys did. Now, these guys aren't guys that are just itinerant labourers or something. These guys are high income earning people that any economy needs and wants and should be glad that they have. But the amount of people that I lost, and it's only one company, the amount of people that I lost because of insane ideological divorce and alimony and so on processes. But it's interesting that it has never been fixed. At no point, in as much as I'm aware, at least, in any Western country, has it been solved. If anything, it's got worse and more vindictive. The only thing it's rescuing men from is that they earn so little money, or they're unemployed for such long periods of time that they're sort of not worth chasing, or there's just nothing in it to go after them. So, but if you're a straight white male earning an above average income and you've got a very stable track record of employment, that's it. They will tear you to pieces, and they will do so for ideological reasons, while in return you have no legal recourse. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.